C3.ai stock. This is a name that is to the downside today, about 10.5% as we speak. It missed on the quarterly numbers. It had a revenue miss and earnings beat, but it was the guidance that also sort of spooked Wall Street some. So let's talk about the AI landscape. Mark Beccue is with us, AI Research Director at the Futurum Group, and Paul Powers, CEO at Visna. Thank you so much for being with us. So, Paul, I'll start with you. What'd you make of it? Because one of the analysts said, look, this is a big picture story, conveys a large opportunity ahead. Is this a big picture, a large opportunity story, or something very wrong?
I don't think it's something as big as being made out to be honest with you. The revenue miss was comparatively small compared to their, how much they beat their EPS forecast by. At the same time, if you look at why the revenue miss took place and why they changed their guidance, it's largely due to a change in their business model becoming more consumption-based, which is a requirement in this market if you're going to stay competitive. I'd actually be kind of nervous if they didn't make that adjustment. And yeah, in the short term, that can have a negative effect on earning or on revenue. But in the long term, I think it's the right move to make. So I would not. I think it might be a little bit overblown.
Okay, so Mark, do you agree? I mean, is this sell-off of nearly 11% today too much?
Well, I guess I think a little bit more about their value prop going forward and the kind of the headwinds they have. I think there's some challenges for them. They're focused on this enterprise AI applications that they're talking about, where supply chain management, process optimization, CRM, ERP, and there's a lot of competition in that space from established enterprise applications players, SAP, Oracle, even Salesforce, and they're kind of dabbling in the spaces where there's automation specialists like OpenText or Automation Anywhere and Pegasystems. So, I also kind of looked at how I was wondering how scalable they might be for what they're trying to do, because their focus has been more on these bespoke approaches for customers that then the customers require. It's a fairly small amount of customers. A lot of them are government. They're looking for highly secure and customized solutions. So if you look down the road, can they scale this is really kind of one of the questions I had.
Yeah. Paul, I mean, are you concerned about that competitive landscape? Because that's something I always ask. And Mark just mentioned SAP, Oracle, CRM, even OpenText. These are some of the names that sort of dabble in the same area. What names do you seem to like best?
I think it comes less down to the names as far as how they've performed in the past, and more has a lot more to do with how they're adopting AI right now. If I were looking at my portfolio, I would look at the companies in it and say, which ones are not making the most use of AI? AI is not like crypto, where you have potentially a bit of a bubble that can be burst, and it's also not really like traditional app-based companies where you have this relatively linear growth pace. AI works in exponentials, and so companies that take advantage of AI, and whether they're making bespoke solutions or very broad, generalized solutions, companies that take advantage of that will potentially unseat the incumbents, unless the incumbents make that move first. So I would be looking for that. As far as C3 is concerned, they do tend to be a little more AI focused, and companies like SAP, for instance, can be wonderful companies, but sometimes these companies can take a bit longer to adopt AI than others. And when it comes to the future, I think you're going to see convergence of two technologies really make up the next era. It's going to be a combination of AI and 3D, and look for companies that see that and that invest in that convergence. I think that you'll find that mostly in private markets, but if you don't have access to private markets and these newer companies, then on the public market, look at companies like Apple, NVIDIA, even Meta, and Google, these larger companies that are actually making pretty sizable investments into AI and even into the 3D space as well, which all play together.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Google and at Meta. I see Google and Microsoft in your notes today, Mark, and I know you have some announcements here, some findings, some top vendors, those who plan to change the vendors. Can you just quickly go through these percentages that you're bringing us today?
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. We're Future Intelligence. We're releasing this week. It's kind of a first of a kind. It's called a Decision Maker IQ Survey. We were focused on AI in the enterprise. We surveyed over 1,000 decision makers in these enterprise environments, and we were looking to see what's the current state. You know, what vendors are using, what product preferences over 12 months, and buying plans for artificial intelligence within the enterprise. 159 vendors were rated in our panel. And here's a couple of things. This is exclusive for Schwab today. You know, organizations who outsource AI deployments versus insource them broke nearly in the middle in our survey. 52% of the organizations outsourcing and 48% insourcing. But of those who were outsourcing, 45% plan to change their vendors this quarter or in early 2004. For those who insource, 47% plan to change vendors. So it's a very, you know, it would make sense that this is a volatile space. One other piece there that's interesting is the top decision criteria for that decision for excellence in meeting was excellence in meeting requirements and expertise and experience with AI. And I go back to something we were talking about a little earlier and mentioning, as we're circling back to C3, which is I believe SAP and Oracle and SAS and Salesforce and the others I mentioned have some very significant AI chops. They know this stuff and they've been working with it for a while. So I think it's tough for C3.
Thank you both so much. Mark Beccue, the Futurum Group, Paul Powers of Visna, thank you both for being here.